Welcome to the Live Full podcast where we talk about all things faith, family, and living fully the life God wants for you. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the mom life. How can we raise kids in church and in ministry, and also about never getting stuck in our lives. Now, in today's episode, I have a very, very special guest. I'm so happy to have her. I absolutely decided from the very start that she's going to be my first guest outside of my husband. And I have Charissa here with me on the show. Hey, welcome on the show. Yeah, Carissa was actually my very first youth pastor. That's how I knew her. And today she is senior pastors at our church that we go to. And so I've known her for a long time. I love her. I love her heart. I just love her. She's great. So maybe Carissa, why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I did not grow up here in Singapore. I grew up in the US. I'm from like Seattle area and grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor actually
Yeah.
for much of my growing up. Um, and I was homeschooled for
Wow.
part of the time.
Mhm.
Then I went to a Christian high school and then graduated from there, went to a Christian university, and that's where I met my husband, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And we dated for a little over a year, and then we got married. And 2 weeks after we got married, we moved out here to Singapore
Yeah.
to be the youth pastors.
My
So
youth pastor.
that's right. So we came out here in July 2001. So it's been almost 24 years now.
Yeah.
And we have four kids. The oldest is 20 almost.
Yeah.
He'll be 20 in June. And then I have a 16-year-old girl and a almost next week 13-year-old boy
Yeah.
and an almost 6-year-old boy also. So it's a wide range. But we've been youth pastoring for a while and then senior pastoring, like you said. And I love it. We're both very involved. I'm I take care of the kids, obviously,
Yeah.
but um, I'm in ministry with Jeremy, like
Yeah.
100%. My heart is 100% there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no. I mean, that's one of the things I definitely admired a lot. And I
Mm,
think I've learned a lot from too. I
yeah.
watched you do ministry,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm doing it too
Yeah.
myself, in church too. And I think we need these examples in
Mm,
church. But I think one of the things I remember our conversation, even from a long time
mm,
ago, was just how much you love being a mom.
mm. Yes.
I always find it fascinating that you have a teenager and a toddler too.
It's interesting.
And but you handle that so well, and maybe you can speak more about that. You always talk
Yeah.
about how being a mom was your dream.
Yep.
I don't think everyone can say that.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. I think I remember like being so little, probably 5 years old, and just playing house. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm,
did that growing up.
mm-hmm.
Did you do that? Okay.
Yeah.
So I would, and I don't remember even who I was playing with, probably my sisters, but neighborhood kids too,
Yeah.
I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. But I remember like sitting I can see it in my mind now, like sitting in a little rocking chair with my little doll just rocking my baby. And I just was like I just always want to be a mom. And so I remember growing up that way, just thinking that that's what I wanted to do.
Yes.
There were many things that I wanted to do in life, but that was constantly changing, but
Yeah.
the mom thing never changed. That was always consistent.
Yeah.
And so then as when I was 10, I started babysitting. My first babysitting job was for a family of three
Mm-hmm.
kids, a 10-year old, no, sorry, a 5-year old, a 3-year old, and a 7-month old. And I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
but but they trusted me for some reason. I
Amazing.
kept them alive and had many opportunities after that to babysit, and I nannied and everything else. So it kind of gave me a taste of motherhood and I loved it. And so when I got pregnant with my first and when I had Caleb, it was just like my dream came true. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't have to give him back.
Yes.
Like, because obviously when you're babysitting, you give the kids back. Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, he's mine. I
Yeah.
gotta keep him. And so it was just everything that I had hoped for. And I've got three after that too.
Yeah.
So, and they're all amazing. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love
Did
it.
you always want four kids?
I was like a bit undecided,
Okay.
but my youth pastor had 4 kids, so I thought that was pretty cool. I came from a family of 3.
Yep.
I knew I wanted at least 3.
Okay.
So Jeremy wanted 2. So we're like, okay, we'll start with 2
Yeah.
and then we'll see how from there. And then we got 4. So hey, we got more than we bargained for, but that was good. It was a
Yeah.
good thing.
What is it like raising kids of such wide age range?
It is amazing and confusing at the
Yeah.
same time. I think I am at when it first like happened, because our last was a surprise,
Yeah.
and so it was not something that we expected, and it took a little bit for my brain to wrap around it. I was
Yeah.
also almost 40 years old, and so
Mhm.
that was like, wait, I don't think I I don't know about this, but it was great, and I was very happy. My kids were so excited to have another sibling, which I was shocked at. I did not think that they would be like that excited, especially at then my 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
I was like, "Why are you excited? You're 14,"
Yes.
But he was so excited. They all were, and it's amazing
Yep.
to watch like that interaction, even though there's such a big age gap.
Yeah.
Um, Now, so there's 14 years between my oldest and youngest,
Mm.
and then 10 between Megan and Luke, and then 7 from Ethan to Luke. So it's quite big, but watching the dynamics together is something that I think most moms don't get, because
Yeah.
they usually have them closer together.
Yeah.
So I feel very privileged to have that. But it is confusing at times, because my heart is everywhere.
Yeah.
I've got a 20-year-old that is serving in the army, and
Yes.
then I've got a 6-year-old that is in kindergarten, and all these other parents are like, "Oh, how is it?" They think that he's my only one. I'm like, "No, he's not." But I don't. I feel all over
Or
the
like
place
that he's your
sometimes.
brother.
Yeah,
Right?
I know. Yeah, so it feels a bit funny sometimes, but I'm very happy and I love it. So
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
can tell.
yeah,
And I know a lot of moms, they have one and they're already struggling,
yeah,
and they're like, I don't want any more.
yeah.
What would you say to someone like that?
Oh, I tell them have 2 for sure,
Yeah.
because 1 is harder than 2,
Yes.
because you are their only playmate,
Yeah.
and if you have 2, they can be friends,
Yeah.
and they will be friends. They have to be friends.
Yeah. No,
So like you and your sister, right? You're
exactly.
just like, you have to. You
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. And they
So
always say that the greatest gift that you can give your child is
it's
a
true.
sibling.
It's true.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
can.
If you can.
Yeah.
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 Obviously.
No, that's
Yeah.
true. Maybe
Yeah.
something that most people don't know about is that we
Yeah.
started this thing a few years ago,
Yeah.
just out of our heart
Mm.
for like mothers,
Yeah.
and how they can live their lives
Mm.
in a way that would not compromise on the things they
Mm.
used to have. I think people always say that when moms like have children,
Yeah.
or like when women have children rather, it's like their life is over,
Right.
but we didn't believe that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we started this
Yeah.
thing called the Mom Collective.
Yeah.
Maybe you can speak a
Yeah.
bit more about that too.
Yeah. I was racking my brain trying to figure out exactly like how we landed on it. But I
Yeah.
remember we talked about just that heart.
Yes.
I think it was that mother's heart that we both had and wanted to see more of, felt
Yeah.
like there was a need for a different kind of voice to be out there, instead of
Yes.
just like, not just like tips or what you should do and what you shouldn't do, but the heart behind it,
Yeah.
and how that even determines the way that we raise our kids
Yep.
and things like that. It it it's so integral to all of those other things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we started in 2018, I think. So
You're right.
it was
Yeah. And it
like
went on for like 3
7 years
years.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had fun.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think one of the things we did say is, I think motherhood is beyond just tips, or like, here's the to do, or
Yeah.
like, 5 things that you need to do to be
Yeah.
a mom, or read a book and then you can get all these
Yeah.
like answers. But I think we talked about it as like, oh, it's values, it's principles.
Right.
Like actually, if you follow some of these things, yeah, it makes motherhood more fun, more
Yeah.
exciting,
Yeah.
more fulfilling too,
Yeah.
right? And maybe we
Yeah.
can, share some of these like values that we talked about.
Yeah.
I think about one of the things you always talk about. You always talk about flexibility,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. That's a bit of my motto
Yes.
also. But I think in today's world, there's so much structure, and I'm not opposed to structure. Structure is important. We need it.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like it's gone so far that way
Yeah.
that there's like no one talks about being flexible.
Yeah.
It's just not a word that we use in
Yeah.
normal life
Yeah.
unless you're like stretching, you're like, wow, you're so flexible. That's not what we're talking about though.
Yeah.
Just in life. And you see how there's so many people, adults, kids, whatever, that are very stuck on one thing and they cannot do it a different way. They're so like bound in a sense
Yeah.
by, well, I've always done it like this. This
Yeah.
is how it has to be. And I feel like if you go through life like that, then there's a lot one that you're going to miss out on. You're
Yeah.
going to miss out on a whole lot of good stuff. And it's difficult when a change is needed
Yeah.
because you don't know how to adapt to something new.
Yes.
So I feel like that starts very small with little kids. So every book that you read is going to tell you to put them on a routine, put them on a schedule, do all this stuff. And again, I'm not opposed to that, but I will not be like stuck to that.
Yeah.
I refuse. I
Yeah.
will not, because I need to develop flexibility in their lives. It's not their responsibility. It's my responsibility to put that inside of them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to live.
Yeah.
When they're 6 months old, they've got no clue how to
Yeah.
be flexible.
Yeah.
But I can help them by helping them to learn how to sleep in their bed, how to sleep in a stroller, how to sleep in the middle of church, how to do whatever. That's on me.
Yeah.
And so if I am stuck in my routine for them, they will also be stuck in that thing. And so I feel like it is one of the greatest gifts we can give to our
Yeah.
kids. I really do.
Yeah. Because change is inevitable.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Any kind of transition and change. And I think about even, what we talked about at the beginning. Both of us are very involved in church and
Yeah.
ministry. And sometimes I think in the past, maybe there's no real like example to follow.
Yeah.
And, I said that like actually seeing your life and the way that you raised the kids and brought them everywhere.
Yeah.
I always remember, I can't remember if it was Luke or it was Ethan, but
Yeah.
coming to church as a really
Yeah.
small baby,
Yeah.
and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
baby is so small. Why
Yeah.
did she bring him to church?" Right?
Right.
But I think it was just a picture of that
Yeah.
flexibility, of that. You know what? They come with us everywhere we go, whatever
Yeah.
we're doing. We're gonna take them along with us on the
Yeah.
journey. And I know many moms who struggle with this. They used to be very involved in church,
Yeah.
and they did a lot. They were, they did so much in church, but after they had kids, maybe they might have pulled back a bit.
Yeah.
And probably for some, reason, maybe they were struggling with the child. Maybe it's a transition season.
Right.
But how would you advise a mom who would say, actually, I still want to be a part of ministry. I still want to do that.
Yeah.
How can I, balance these two things?
Yeah. I think, first of all, when God asks us to do something, when he calls us to some kind of ministry,
Yeah.
whether it's full-time or whether it's lay, it doesn't matter. There's a call that's there.
Yeah.
There's a responsibility that we have to fulfill that.
Mm.
And he also gives us kids.
Yeah.
He's the one that gives them to us. So I think that it's a little, I don't know what the word is, but like it's not very wise to just pull back from one thing when God knows everything.
Yeah.
He knows exactly how everything is going to turn out and
Yeah.
should turn out, and he knows the best way to go about it. And so I feel like it's not right to just like take control over it of how you think it's going to be best.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. I have no idea. You don't know. No one knows except for God.
Yeah.
And so I've seen a lot of soon to be moms that go, oh, this is what I'm going to do because it's going to be hard. It's going to be like this. It's going to be that. And I think, first of all, that confession is a terrible confession to make, because you're saying it's going to be hard.
Yeah. You've pre-decided
Exactly.
it. Yeah. Which you shouldn't.
Exactly. I mean, why don't you just decide that it's going to be good?
Exactly.
That's how I try to go about everything. Now, obviously there's hiccups. Obviously things go wrong in life. It's not that it's just all peachy all the time and whatever. But with a positive outlook and perspective, I think it can change a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think you could, instead of going, oh, what if this terrible thing happened? What if something amazing happened?
Yeah.
Take the what if to the other extreme. What if, oh my word, what if it was amazing?
Yeah.
What if my baby is the most, like, the best sleeper? You know, what
Mhm.
if they are like, and and I think that that actually helps so much. I don't think you should be naive about it. You should be practical, but also not like preemptive, figuring out what
Yep.
you're going to do before you baby hasn't even been born yet.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
So and I think that as we put God first, he always honors that.
Yep.
And I have seen in our lives, as we have done that, um there are some things that some parents face with their kids that I have not faced,
Yeah.
because God's grace is there
Yep.
to help us with those things. It's not because of any, you know, trick or tip that I have. I mean, yes, there are some of those things,
Yeah.
but more than that, it's God's grace that is
Yeah.
there. So much more than that.
Yeah.
And so again, if I had decided, oh, it's going to be like this, I would have missed out on
Yeah.
seeing God's grace evident in that situation.
Yeah. It's true.
So, yeah, I think don't make too many decisions
Yeah.
beforehand when you don't know what is going to take place.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think you start off with the willingness
Yes.
and then openness about what God can do.
Yeah.
I always tell moms this, that actually I feel like God has a special grace for moms.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, when we are a part of service and, you know,
Yeah.
we want to be in the hall, in the room,
Yes.
the baby cries, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's
It
unexpected. You
happens.
can't control
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Or they start screaming and
Yep.
yelling.
Yep.
Again, I can't control that,
Right.
right?
Right.
We can put them in the, you know, the children's like church.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's some of these things that it's out
Yeah.
of your control.
Yeah.
But I feel like even in those services, even in my own experience,
Mm.
I feel like God has spoken to me so
Oh,
intimately
absolutely.
and so real. And I
Yeah.
always say that this is the
Yeah.
special grace that God gives to
It's
moms,
true. It's true.
you know,
Very much
because
so.
it is different. I think when you
Yeah.
are willing to step out and make
Yeah.
that decision, right,
Yeah.
beforehand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To say that, hey, look, like I'm not gonna think of it as, oh, it's gonna be bad. Actually, I'm gonna think of it as it's gonna be better than what I have right now.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It changes the way you,
It's so good. I remember sitting at the in a youth conference, and I think I had 3 kids at that time.
yeah,
And I remember, I think Caleb, I don't know. He was a little bit, he's my oldest, obviously. So he
yeah,
was probably playing with someone, or, but Megan and Ethan, I was sitting at the very back, and they were both just sound asleep.
yeah,
Like, I mean, music was crazy. It was loud. It was some amazing altar call, whatever. And I remember sitting back there and just going, I'm so thankful that
yeah,
I can be here still experiencing this.
yes,
And my kids are fine.
yeah,
They're very happily sleeping
yeah,
right here, you
yeah,
know? And I just remember going like, I remember just being filled with tears and just like, God,
yeah,
I'm just so thankful
yeah,
that this is what you've allowed me to do. And I've
yeah,
gotten this opportunity to be here
yeah,
and to do this.
yeah, yeah. What a privilege it is
Yeah.
that we get to do it,
Yeah,
right? And I think
absolutely.
there's a principle behind it too that I remember we
Mhm.
talked about, you know, that do you want to revolve your world around your kids,
Yeah.
or will your kids revolve around your
Yes.
world, you know? And so it's quite a
Yeah.
different like perspective to have, you know,
Very.
when we say, okay, God, actually you are the center of everything that
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
My kids just gotta get around that too,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, versus saying, oh, but no, they have to sleep now, you know?
Exactly.
Oh, but like it's too loud, or like, you
Yeah.
know, oh, like the timing just doesn't work out for me.
Yeah.
But she's saying, okay, like, but this was my life already,
Yeah.
right? And I want
Yeah.
you to be a part of like everything that we do,
Yeah.
and everything that we,
Definitely.
you know, that we enjoy,
Yeah.
right? And actually come
Yeah.
into that world too,
Exactly.
and be a part of it. I
Yeah.
think you guys do that so well.
Thank you.
And I admire that. I think I look
Mhm.
at that a lot.
Mhm.
Now that you have the perspective, right? Because you have got the age range that is,
Yes.
you know, the widest.
Yeah.
I've always been curious about this.
Mm.
What do you feel like were some of the best things that you did?
Mm.
Because, you know, Caleb and Megan, I've watched them and they're like amazing in
Mm.
church. You know,
Yeah.
I see the way they love God.
Yeah.
I see the way they serve God.
Yeah.
And I want that for my
Mm.
kids too.
Yeah.
What are some things that you feel like worked?
Yeah.
Or what did you do,
Yeah.
you know, uh, on hindsight, right?
Right.
That you feel like helped them to get to that point.
Right. I think for me, it's kind of two, I don't know, kind of twofold, I guess.
Yeah.
I think for me, I saw it when I was growing up.
Yeah.
My youth pastor and his wife, um they had four kids also, like I said, and they would take them everywhere. They were at everything, every youth
Yeah.
activity, at every like rehearsal, at everything. They were always there.
Yeah.
And I want they loved it. They had fun, and all of us youth would help take care of them and like play with them and whatever. So I remember growing up like I want my family to be like that.
Yeah.
Um and then obviously as it happened, it's different than watching it,
Mm.
cuz it is there are challenges of course to it.
Yeah.
There definitely are. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Just I think, like I said before, my perspective is I usually just in life in general, I'm usually like, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out.
I love it.
You know?
Yeah.
So it may be something new. And so even people ask me, how do you fly with them? How do you do whatever? I'm like, if I want to go somewhere, like if I want to go and see my family in Seattle,
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I remember flying with two kids and pregnant with Ethan by myself.
Yeah.
Jeremy wasn't with me. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Why would I not do it?
Yeah.
I want to go see my family.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of perspective for me, I mean, that's how I'm wired. So that does help. But I think that we can all change our perspective. I mean, that's all, it's all up to us. Right. And so I think that's one of the things. But I just, I'm just going to bring them everywhere and I'm going to involve them in anything that I can, you know,
Yeah.
and to make it where this is not like our job or what we have to do. This is what we get to do.
Yeah.
This is us. This
Yeah.
is not just Jeremy and I. This is our family. This is how we roll. This is who we are, you know.
Yeah.
And so and the Bible talks about this, how Paul says that he not only shared the gospel, but he shared his life with them
so good
as well. And I think that is so powerful as we share our lives, not just like words and the right kind of, you know, if you're preaching a sermon or you share something with, it's not just about that, but sharing my life, letting people into my life.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we did things.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, it became it was just us. They didn't know anything different, honestly. So we'd have people over to our house a lot.
Yeah.
You would be at everything, you know.
I used to babysit your kids.
That's right. Exactly. That's how you got trained a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It does help.
Yeah, it does.
But I think a lot of that kind of stuff just helped a lot. I had someone comment recently, just like late last year, another mom. She had younger kids and she was watching my oldest. He was like singing on stage.
Yeah.
And she watched him and she goes, I love how your kids love church.
Yes.
And I don't know if many people have said that to me before, but I was like, yes, they do.
Yeah.
They really do. And she's like, what did you do?
Yeah.
So the same thing,
exactly.
you know, and I had to think about it. I'm like, what did I do? I don't know. I mean, except that there's that just involving. And I think we spoke positively about it.
Yes.
We loved it. So I'm not going around complaining about what we have to do or what we're doing and all of that. It's a joy for us.
Yeah.
And so that rubs off on them.
Yeah.
And to watch them come into their own way of ministry is the best thing ever as a mom. I'm just like, it's something new that I have not experienced before, except now with my older two. And they serve their generation and their leaders and they love Jesus and they help people. And I'm just like, wow, God, this is amazing. But pray for your kids. That's the other major thing. Pray for them.
Yeah.
Pray for them. And I think, although there are practical things you can do, I think there's also a very active letting go and letting God work in their lives.
Yeah.
And that's another thing God spoke to me a few years ago. Like he said, do you not think I'm going to speak to them as I spoke to you when I was like 14?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I remember those times when you spoke to me at 14.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do it for them? Of course you're going to do it for them.
Yeah.
You love them as much as you love me. Like I'm not special, like, you know, in that sense. And so it's a active like letting go. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to pray for them, but God's got them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have conversations with them. I'm going to help them through some things that maybe they have questions, maybe they're unsure about stuff. I'm going to help them through that. But I'm not going to be like, oh my word, what am I going to do? I
Yeah.
can't. Yeah. No, God's got them.
Yeah.
And to it's okay to have a little bit of a struggle,
Yeah.
but talk them through that.
Yeah.
Pray them through that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah.
Amazing thing to watch.
I guess a bit of like a surrender to God.
Absolutely.
You've given them to me.
Exactly.
Right? To steward,
Yeah.
to take care of.
Yeah.
And you love them, right?
Yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. You
Yeah.
love them more than I do.
Yeah.
You are more invested in their lives than I am,
Yeah.
you know? And so I can trust you.
Yeah.
Right? I can trust you
Absolutely.
with how they would turn out as
Yeah.
I do the right things. I think what you're saying too, you love the church.
Yeah.
And so because
Definitely.
of that, naturally, like
Yeah.
they would love the church
Yeah.
too, you know?
Yeah.
And so it starts with us, right?
It does.
I think I remember too a few years ago, as I was thinking about the kids,
Mm.
you know, God challenged me
Mm.
that look, you're actually making disciples too.
Yeah. Definitely.
With your kids. Actually,
Yep.
your kids may be the most important disciples you have in your
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely.
Because you're training them, they watch you every day.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
see you behind closed doors,
Yep.
not just on stage.
Yep.
Right? Not just like talking to people,
Yeah.
right? But they see you every day when
Yeah.
you are cooking, when you are
Definitely.
cleaning, when you're
Yep.
doing the laundry, when you are, you know, when
Yeah.
you're upset. I mean,
Yep.
they see all of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yet, you know,
Yeah.
if they choose to say,
Right.
I still want to be here,
Yeah.
I still want to like love God.
Yeah.
I think that's really like really amazing.
It's huge.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal to me too, to see that and to have
Yeah.
that example in
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's where like when like in the beginning you talked about how where sometimes moms feel like, oh, it's like the like what is my job now? What do I
Yeah.
do? You know? But if you have that kind of perspective that these humans are the people that you're going to invest in.
Yeah.
And yes, when they're babies, it's a little messy and
Yeah.
it's not exactly what you're thinking is destiny and all of this amazing
It
stuff.
doesn't look like Instagram.
It doesn't. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. It's not what we like we think is going to
Yeah,
be, you know.
yeah.
But all of those things, just
Yeah.
loving the kids and helping them at each and every stage, it is discipling them and
Yeah.
everything, and they are the next generation. And so if what I can give is to have amazing kids that grow up to be amazing adults that serve God, that serve people, that okay, I did my job,
Yeah.
and it was an important job.
Yeah. No, and that's a perspective thing.
Yeah.
Because I think for many moms, maybe your goal is they need to get a specific type of job, a career,
Yeah.
you know, marry by a certain age,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But actually if our goal is, no, actually I want them like to love God. Like even
Exactly.
more than I ever did.
Yes.
Right? I want them to serve God.
Yeah.
I want them to be in church.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, because I think about some families where, you know, the parents are so involved,
Mm.
and the kids actually end up, you know, walking away,
Yeah.
or they, you know, and it's really sad.
It's very sad.
But what do you think are some ways that, you know, we can, you know, speak to like kids like that, or like, you know, to help families
Yeah.
like that too?
Yeah, I think being aware of like where they're at.
Yeah,
I think that there's a lot of people that can be like, yeah, there's this, but I don't know, I'm just onto my thing and
Yeah.
whatever. And I think that there are times that we need to pause and go, you know what? I need to really be watching my kids on this thing.
yeah,
Have good conversations, bring this up, love on them. Sometimes I've always said, and this is something that have learned and am still learning, that especially as they become like teenagers and everything, I've almost got 3 for a short period of time before
Yeah.
Caleb turns 20. But it's so important to be interested in them at where they're at
yeah,
and
that's
what
good.
they are interested in, not just who I want them to be. There are, I remember Megan she was in track and field like in primary 3
Mhm.
at her school because that was kind of the only option of her CCA there, and so she had to do it, and she hated it. She hated it so much. I was like, Megan, you could be a star. You're amazing. You've got
Yeah.
really long legs. You could do this. She's like, I hate this thing.
Yeah.
I hate it. So she did it for a year and then did something else after that. But it was like, I mean, I really wanted her. I don't know why, but I was like, sounds cool. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was never
It would be cool.
right? I'm like, but she hated it. She didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's fine. What are we gonna figure out that you love?
Yeah.
And so, we didn't force it, whatever. But I try to be interested in whatever they are interested in and to learn. So my son in the army now, I don't care about army stuff. You think
Yeah.
I care? No, I
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
And we were youth pastor all those years, and all the guys went through NS, and eh, like, what?
Yeah.
Why do I care?
Yeah.
But my son is in it. Well,
Yeah.
I care now.
Yeah.
I care. I care a lot.
Yes.
I'm trying to
Yes.
understand. I'm trying to learn all the
Yes.
terminology. I'm trying to figure it out. Why? Because he's there.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to connect with him.
Yeah.
Even though I won't get it all. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I am interested, and I'm going to ask him questions. I'm not going to just bring him into my world. I'm going to be in his world.
Yes.
And I think that is something that can be missed out on some parents that are so I don't want to say over involved, because I don't think that's the right thing either.
Yeah.
Because we're very involved in ministry.
Yeah.
Extremely involved.
Yeah.
But we are very involved in our kids' lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, if you're not careful, you can miss opportunities. You can miss things. I mean, I'm telling you, with my daughter, if I take her out shopping for a day, oh, it just opens up the conversation. Yes. It opens up doors.
So
it's
good.
an amazing thing. Jeremy's like, I think you should do this. Here, I'm like, apparently, okay, yes. Let's do it. Why? It's worth it.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to her.
Yeah.
I love her, that I want to spend time with her, that I want to see what she likes to do. Like, and we have fun, obviously. Have fun with your kids, make memories, all of that stuff. You got to build your family, not just ministry. 100% build ministry, but build your family. Don't lose your family.
Yeah. That's your first ministry.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you love learning. I think that's something I'm still learning how to do too, being interested in my kids.
Sure.
And what they are interested in, because you are right. Most of the time, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to learn about it, right? And you talk about this a lot, about like not getting stuck, you know? You don't want to ever be stuck in one place. I think that kind of perspective really helps. Where did you get this mentality from?
Yeah.
How do you get, because not all of us like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it kind of came about in a weird way.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember Snapchat?
Yes.
Before Instagram stories were a thing, Snapchat was around, right? And I remember watching people on it, and I was like intrigued by it, and I was so interested. And then I was like, people, I don't know if people were asking me, or if I was just like, maybe I should just try it out.
Yeah.
But that app I found very confusing. I found it super confusing, but everyone was talking about it and everything. And I was like, you know what? If I don't give it a chance, then I'm just one of those old people that is like, I don't like it, but I've never tried it.
Yes.
And it was Snapchat that made me kind of come to this realization, which sounds so ridiculous, because it is.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful, because actually it was one of those things that I'm like, if I can't try something that is stupid and doesn't really matter, then how am I going to try something that actually is important?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I need to give it a chance, why not give it a chance? And so I learned. I figured out to use the app, and I started posting on it, and started doing that before Instagram stories came out and whatever. But it was that thing that goes, I don't want to become a person that will not try new things.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't want to be someone, and the older we get, the harder it is to try new things.
Yes.
We get more and more stuck. We get more and more like reserved, or the what ifs, or I don't know, like, it takes a long time to try something new, start something new, whatever. And so it was at that point, I remember, like, I'm not going to be that person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be 60, 70, 80, 90 years old and just refusing to try something new.
Yeah.
I'm not. And so that's kind of what spurred it on, which again sounds ridiculous, but the more that I kind of had that in my heart and mind, the more things started to come out about how actually, as we grow older, how important it is to keep changing and growing. And like, I mean, research and science, it goes deep into this about how it helps our brains to like stay on track and to stay alert and all of that stuff, just by trying new things.
Yeah.
By
Makes life a bit
growing.
more fun too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's how God meant us to be. I mean, the Bible talks about how um he wants to transform the way we think. In
Yeah.
Romans it talks about that, you know. And it's like we do. I don't always have the right perspective.
Yep.
I oftentimes don't have the right perspective. So I need God to change the way I think so that I'm not stuck. I
Yeah.
don't want to just be someone that stops growing.
So
I
good.
don't want to be that person.
Yeah, so good. I think that's a good perspective for moms too, right?
Yeah.
Actually, as a mom, I think it's important that we are always, because our kids are always changing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so as they
Absolutely.
grow and as they change, actually we change with them too, and we kind of like flow with their seasons and their
Yep.
times.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a good value.
Yeah.
And you know, before we just like end off this
Yeah.
time, is there one last like encouragement that you might want to give to moms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say just go for it. Don't think too hard. Don't overthink things. Please don't overthink it. Our brains can get in a not a great spot by overthinking, you know. And I think that change it from the what if this terrible thing happened to what if this amazing thing
Yeah,
happened.
good.
What if this was just the best season of my life? I love the season I'm in right now, but I loved it too when my kids were little.
Yeah.
I loved that. And like you said, like we grow with our kids, and I don't want to go back actually. A lot of parents are like, "Oh, I wish I could go back to when they were like 3 years old or a baby or whatever."
Yeah.
I love the baby stage. I love actually my two favorites probably. If I had to pick favorites,
Yeah.
probably the newborn and teenagers.
Yeah. Wow.
Which are someone told me they're like, those are the things that most people hate. I'm like,
not
well,
you.
I guess. I don't know, not me. I like the in-between part too. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I find just so much joy in those. And yes, when they're 3 and they're saying funny things, it's so fun too.
Yeah.
But I think just being in it in the moment, being appreciative for what you have.
Yeah.
And where you're at, and to know that you're in a season,
Yeah.
and that season is going to change, and you're never going to get that season back.
Yeah.
I could cry because like I am very thankful that when my kids were newborns, because I think because I was looking forward to it so much. So I understand some moms, they have not been looking forward to it or hasn't been their life goal.
Yeah.
And so they're worried, they're nervous, they're like not sure what's going to happen. I get that. For me, I didn't have all that kind of stuff. It was just pure excitement. It really was. And did I have to wake up in the middle of the night? Absolutely. Were things hard? Were they painful? Yes. But was it worth it? Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm so thankful that I was in those moments, that I snuggled my newborns as much as I could.
Yeah.
And I soaked it all up.
Yeah.
Because it will pass.
Yeah.
That first month goes so fast.
Yeah.
And they are not the same after that first month, you know?
Yeah.
And when they turn 6 months, they're not the same after that. And so they're constantly changing. So don't like wish it was a different season.
Good. Yeah.
Whether it's in the future or last time. Just be in the moment and take it for what it's at. Be thankful for what you've got.
Yeah.
Be thankful for what God's given to you with the challenges. Anything worth anything is challenging.
Yes.
Anything. So it's not just motherhood. It's not just whatever. It's anything that's worth anything is challenging.
Yeah.
But there are benefits that far outweigh that.
Yeah. That's so good. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for being on this show.
So good, so good, so good.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope this episode encouraged you to live full in your lives and for Jesus.